See, UPA 1, most people forget, had only 145 members on the Congress party side. The Congress party had about 26 or 27% of the members of the Lok Sabha. And we were critically dependent on the left. The left had an outdated philosophy and an inconsistent application of an outdated philosophy. For example, when we wanted to disinvest in BHEL, Mr. Prakash Karat first agreed. Then he backed out. Take the DMK. The DMK had no objection to disinvestment in public sector as a principle. But if we want to do it in Neyveli Lignite Corporation, they threatened to resign. So it was a difficult period when we had to watch our step, when we had to look over our shoulder every time. Nevertheless, significant changes were made in policies, significant changes were made in the manner in which reforms will be taken forward. And I think that contributed to that unprecedented growth of 8.5%. I've always believed that records are meant to be broken. The record between 2004 and 2009 is the record today, and I wish the present government or a future government will break that record. But that is because we applied our mind every day, every week to what can be done to push growth. The biggest reforms were public-private partnership. For the first time, in an organized way, in a structured way, we said, let's mobilize private funds for public projects. Let's mobilize private funds to provide public goods and public services. For example, the road building program. The NHAI program would not have grown by leaps and bounds if it had been funded only by budgetary support or by borrowing on government account. It is only when we brought the private sector player, it acquired a new dimension. The public-private partnership has some problems, but I believe with a little tweaking, it can be made into a success. We should try the PPP model in many other areas. The second one was the telecom revolution. As I know, it started with Rajiv Gandhi. He had a clearly far-sighted as far as telecom is concerned. He was also far-sighted as far as electronics, aviation, water resources, human resource development are concerned. He was able to look at HRD as beyond education, water resources as beyond irrigation, telecommunication is beyond mere telephony, aviation is beyond Indian Airlines. I think if he had been Prime Minister, he would have pushed many of the reforms with great vigor. The telecom revolution did gather pace even in Mr. Bajpayee's time. But I think much of it was marred by crony capitalist decisions. I won't get into the details. The real telecom revolution took place in 2004 to 2009. I know the 2G remains a blot, but I don't know if any wrong was done. If wrong was done, the law will take its course. But the big push to telecommunication, the opening up to many, many private players, the rapid rollout of telecommunication facilities, I think is a major contribution of the UPA. And then, of course, DBT and Aadhaar. Please remember that the BJP and many other parties rubbished both DBT and Aadhaar. NGOs went to court. They said, if we come to power, and current ministers are on record of having said, if we come to power, we'll abolish this Aadhaar. Today the government swears by Aadhaar, and DBT is its principal vehicle for delivering subsidies and other benefits to the people. I think these are major contributions. Of course, we made major changes in tax laws. We had the direct taxes code drafted not once but twice. Unfortunately, the government seems to have buried it. Very unfortunate. We had the Financial Sector Legislative Reforms Commission report. The government has taken up 3 of the proposals, but they should take all of them and pass the legislation. We implemented VAT. Please remember, when I came in 2004, VAT as an idea had been accepted, but no state had signed on. I had set for myself a target of 1 year to get VAT implemented. And I was able to persuade all but half a dozen states to come on board to implement VAT very quickly. I said, all right, we will do it in 2 phases. Those who want to come later can come later, but I'm determined to implement VAT. We roped in the Chambers of Commerce. I think FICCI played a big part. We went around explaining what VAT was, held a large number of meetings, seminars, workshops, training programs. And VAT is a reality, but it was all done in the first year. And the 6 states which did not join in the first phase, I went and met every chief minister, Mr. Karunanidhi, Mr. Mulayam Singh Yadav, and all came on board. VAT was implemented. That is a major step forward. That is how GST should be implemented. Nobody is questioning the idea of GST. We're not debating the idea of GST. We mooted the idea, we support the idea. The first bill was introduced by Mr. Mukherjee. What we are debating is the bill which is in Parliament. The GST idea is accepted, the GST bill has flaws. And the government must deal with it like we dealt with VAT. Sit down and engage the opposition, engage the chief ministers and find a way to take GST forward. See, I can't share with you too many details, but I can say this, because it's been said by others. The finance minister, Mr. Mukherjee, had been persuaded by his officers that the Vodafone SR transaction was taxable. If you took an objective view of the transaction, it was indeed taxable. In fact, I have posed the question to OECD, and the OECD tax experts have told me in any country it would be taxable. The transaction, of course, was put through 2 foreign-based entities. The Bombay High Court held that the transaction was taxable. The Supreme Court reversed it. I think the right time to have introduced the tax, if you wanted the tax to be introduced, was between the Bombay High Court judgment and before the Supreme Court judgment. Anyway, I was not in the finance ministry then. When the idea of retrospective taxation was mooted, I think the finance minister was advised not to pursue the idea. When my opinion was asked, I said, the tax may be correct tax, but to reverse a Supreme Court decision in today's conditions and circumstances would be a bad idea. Anyway, the tax was introduced. The reaction was severe. Because I know, because I had traveled thereafter as finance minister, and the first question that will be tossed at you in any meeting is, what about the retrospective tax? Now, maybe if it was not Vodafone, it might not have become a big issue. But Vodafone is the world's 2nd largest telecommunication company. It is present in virtually every advanced economy. Its chiefs can reach into any prime minister, any president's office. So it became a very controversial tax. We tried to explain. Yes, people understood the taxability, but people never understood or accepted the retrospective effect of the tax. Anyway, we live and learn. But I have suggested to the present government, to the present finance minister, very early in his tenure, use your 282 in the Lok Sabha and repeal the retrospective part of the tax, that clause. Let it be prospective. I don't know why the government is reluctant to do that. So the Vodafone stigma still attaches to the present government.